Nevada, Wier, Santa Fe, New Mexico. Here we are. Thanks for having us to your beautiful studio. Over the garage, right? Second story?
Well, no, actually this part is over the garage, but I extended it as far out and as far up as the zoning would allow me, so I could, have a place to print and show my work.
Okay, so this is our companion podcast to the Santa Fe Photo Walks episode. You live and work in Santa Fe, New Mexico. You have for several years, though you're rarely here, usually traveling, right?
Sort of. Not several years, like decades.
Decades,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Just for starters, for people who are not familiar with you, talk about some of the places you've been. Just, it's all on the wall. Where have you been?
Oh, well, up until recently, I travel internationally almost every single month, and I specialize in Asia. So I've spent a lot of time, I lived in Kathmandu in the 70s, and I spent a lot of time in Nepal trekking and in Central Asia, because I was a trekking guide at that time as I was beginning photography. And I also spent a lot of time in Southeast Asia and Myanmar, and I began getting assignments for that region. But I also have traveled a lot to South America and so many places. I don't count countries. I like going back places because you see the place differently, so I have the luxury of going back a lot of places.
Okay, so we're now the day before Halloween,
yes.
Right? We're speaking the day before Halloween. If I followed you correctly, I understand you were in Mexico recently and in Africa.
Yes, my first trip in a long time, and I was in Kenya on a walking safari, and then I was in Mexico teaching a workshop.
In San Miguel de Allende, right?
In San Miguel de Allende, yeah.
Right, which I understand is one of the greatest places in the world.
It's beautiful. The first time I went there, I went, oh, this is what I want Santa Fe to look like. It's a walking place, and it's really beautiful.
And what's beautiful about it? What's great?
Well, it's just the old colonial buildings and the cobblestones, and there's always a festival. There's always something happening. People are out on the streets, and people wear color, and and open. It's just so friendly. So it was nice to be back there.
And you were teaching a photo workshop there?
I was teaching a workshop for the Santa Fe photographic workshops, yeah.
And so what do you do? It's like for 5 days, or?
This one was for 5 days, and originally was built around a festival that was truncated a little bit because of the COVID situation. But we photographed cowboys and cowgirls, and we went off. We had our own walks and festivals, and it was fantastic. And everyone was being very careful. It felt very safe being there. People wearing masks, and really felt good about it.
Now you do a workshop for the Santa Fe workshop here in town as well, like portraits, I believe?
Well, I've been teaching with the Santa Fe workshops over 20 years. I've been here since 1974, and they came later, but fantastic place. But I teach 1 or 2 workshops a year. I do like a travel workshop usually, or a more intensive, like working on projects. And I also work for them in Cuba and then in San Miguel de Allende.
Okay, so for all those people watching and listening who say, wow, what a life. I want this, to get paid to travel and take pictures. This is the dream. So how did it all happen for you?
Well, I came to Santa Fe in '74 right after college. I went to a really small college in Arizona, and I was a city girl from DC, but I fell in love with the outdoors, and I became a rock climber and a kayaker. And I moved here because there was an Outward Bound school here. And that's when I started photography. I built a dark room in the basement of the Outward Bound school. And I spent every spare moment in the alchemy of the dark room. I mean, it's magic, isn't it? Seeing a print come out of the stop bath, and of course you're reeling out, kind of drunk on toxic fumes. But it was just magic, absolutely magic. And I'm self-taught, which it's not necessarily a good thing because the teacher doesn't know anything, but I just loved it. And then when I started traveling, I always just had a camera with me, and I gradually went started using color slides, because at that time I wanted to work for National Geographic. I wanted to be published like many people dream about, and it was all about color. And I realized actually I see better in color. I'm actually 1% to 2% of women see 10 times more colors, and I'm one of them. So I see the world not as good as a butterfly, but pretty close. So for me, it's all about color. And I just love it. And so I just merged my outdoor life, you know, as a trekking guide, into assignments, because I was in these wonderful expeditions in China in the early days in the 80s and Central Asia. And so I had stories. I had stories to give editors, and the world is built on stories. I mean, that's what we do. We spend all of our life in stories.
So you got your first assignment from what, National Geographic?
Oh, no, not my first assignment,
Yeah.
but actually airline magazines. In those days, Singapore Airlines was fantastic, Thai, and I had to work my way up with National Geographic. But I loved it, and I worked on a book project in 1990 in Vietnam. It was a really interesting time to be in Vietnam, and I wrote a book called Adventure Travel Photography. So I got involved, not only in assignment world, but really early on in teaching, because it's really part of my world. And I'm so glad, because it's a great journey. And actually, I think I've become a better photographer because I'm a teacher. I'm lucky because I still was able to work in the magazine world. I worked for Islands and Geo and all the different magazines.
So what was your first National Geo assignment?
It was on the Kyrgyz nomads in Western China in the 90s, and that was just really exciting. But the best one I ever did with them was I did the entire length of the Blue Nile in Ethiopia for 2 months, and that was a magnificent journey.
What's the life of a National Geographic photographer when on assignment?
Well, it's changed. It's very different. I mean, I wasn't there in the days when people had, free budgets and all months, and I was, kind of right at the cusp, or they were really paying attention. I mean, it's tough. I mean, the editors, they're good. They're tough. It's a big deal. And now of course it's changed. Magazines. It used to be. Magazine editors were like the guardian of, like, if you wanted to become a photographer, the magazine editor basically said, you shall pass, Now it's different. Now there's so many fabulous ways to promote yourself, and you can get well known in so many different genres without the world of magazines. It's just completely different, I wouldn't even know where to start today. So.
But back then you would take, 4,000 images, and you'd be lucky for them to take 2, something like that?
Well, I mean, photography's hard. This is the thing. And people think, oh, well, if you just click the frame enough,
Right.
you have an image, which is true, because photography is a very democratic medium. Everybody's going to take a great picture, if not one, if not 2, in their lifetime. Or they might think they're great. Whether they are or not is something else. But it's not like painting, or if I can hold a violin for the rest of my life and their song is not going to come out, right? But photography is different. But going deep, there's a phrase one of my editors used, it's kind of a silly one, but you have to dance around the teacup. And I don't know why you thought the teacup, but you have to really examine and pay attention. And sometimes it takes many frames to do that, to really see, to go in and explore. And a lot of times at the beginning, you're just sketching and thinking about it. And then finally it goes, that's the moment. So, photography is about being a virtuoso of seeing. You have to see it first. And you have to imagine it, because we can photograph in ways that we don't see. So it's just the subject. And then this is what's hard, is that I have great subjects, right? Because I'm going all over the world, amazing festivals. But I have to make a great image. It can't be, oh, interesting person, click. Oh, beautiful sunrise, click. It has to be something special, like a snowflake.
So if you find somebody really interesting
I
in
work
one of those
it.
countries, how do you work it?
Depends on the person, depends on what they're doing. It depends on whether I have to spend time with them to get them to open up and relax, because I love photographing people. And some people, I can just merge with immediately, and other people, especially tribal people, just have to spend more time. I've gone into places where I haven't even brought out my camera for a day, because I just had to get to know people, and they had to get to know me. So it really depends on the situation.
What's your gear? What do you take with you?
Well, I've worked with a lot of different equipment. I started off with this big view camera, and then I went to Pentax and Olympus, and eventually in digital. I think my first digital camera was Canon. I'd switched from Nikon at that point. And I've been working with Canon ever since, but also I work with Olympus, these nice, beautiful, small little, it's a micro four thirds, so
Right.
it has limitations. But it's such a sweet little camera. So I usually, if I'm really going on a serious assignment or trip, I take 2 systems and then decide when I'm there what I'm going to use.
Okay, so it's the Canon 5D or the 1D or
I
the
have
R?
I'm using mirrorless now. I love mirrorless. I think it's a game changer.
Yeah.
I love it. I love the flip out screen. It's not just about that. Being able to see the exposure through the viewfinder. And, I work a lot also with converted cameras that just photograph infrared light. And Canon or Olympus are fantastic. And mirrorless is really the only way to work with infrared light because it's right on the sensor and the focus. And
So you're using the R?
I'm using the R. Yes, I have the Canon R and the Canon R5. The R for infrared and the R5.
And what's your lens of choice?
Well, I like wide angle. I like 16 to 35, but 24 to 70 is a convenient one, but it's a comfortable one too. And then in fact, today they finally got it in a 100 to 500 because I like that really, illusion of compression,
Yeah.
which is so beautiful.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I'm a wide angle person too. But
Yeah, I just, no, I love it because it's, you being close and you can exaggerate something and then there's another subject. But I like layers. I like complicated images that you see this and you see this and you see that, not just there's the person.
And printing, so you have an Epson downstairs or?
Yes, I've tried like all the different printers. I'm now using the new Epsons because I think their inks are beautiful. I've just converted over, and I like doing my own printing because I'm such a detailed person, and it just doesn't work for somebody else
So
to do it
if
for
you
me.
send it to Bay Photo, what's going to be wrong with it?
Oh, this little thing and
Yeah.
that little thing. I mean, like I say, to me, a print is a sculpture. It's 3-dimensional and it has to have a presence. That's why some images that will look great on a presentation, I still say slideshow, on a image review is fine because like 3 seconds. But something you're going to marinate in and something you're going to stand in front of, it has to have real presence. So it takes time to work with it.
So it will be finished in Photoshop and Lightroom and.
Well, I love Lightroom. That's my database, and I start there. I process differently for presentations, Zoom or some kind of a talk, a keynote, or so forth. That I can mainly do in Lightroom. But when I really want to do fine detail, burning and dodging, I use Photoshop, multi-layers. Yeah.
And that's what you're doing is burning and dodging.
Yeah, burning and
you're
dodging.
doing levels and curves. And all that?
I'm a traditionalist where you have to understand that I rarely crop my images because I was brought up with here's the slide, and you couldn't say to an editor you got to crop it or like you're fired. And I also do not remove any content. I don't remove a wire. I don't remove a piece of trash. The gotcha crowd is just too intense, and also it's a challenge for me. So I want to get it right in the camera as much as possible. And so I work a lot with saturation and working with color and burning and dodging, but I don't change a sky out or get rid of this wire or put this person in, take that person out.
Have you seen the sky replacement tool in Photoshop?
I've seen them all. No, it's great. And if somebody else wants to do it, it's fine. But I work enough at a computer that I have like parameters of where I'm going to work.
No, I just was surprised at how good it was.
It's
'Cause
so good.
Usually they come out with this thing and I say,
Yeah.
it doesn't really work as well as they say it does.
Yeah, no,
But-
it's great. And the new Lightroom they just came out with is phenomenal. They finally, you're able to almost do layers there and have, masks. And I think it's absolutely brilliant. I love Lightroom. I've been involved with Adobe from the beginning. I've been in a number of their promos. And I just think it's an absolutely brilliant program.
Now, are you shooting on a smartphone as well?
A little bit, not a whole lot, to be honest. But it's the camera that's there. So like
Right.
I've been doing a lot of hiking around here, which is,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what I usually take with me along
So
with
you
my
have an
infrared.
iPhone or an Android? Or?
I have an iPhone. Yeah,
Which one? Mm-hmm.
I have the new 13 that I haven't quite 100% mastered yet.
Well, I could show you a few things.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just, brand new for me. And no, because it doesn't matter whether it's an iPhone or whether it's a regular camera. It's how you see it.
Right.
It's how you see it. I mean, there are limitations to what an iPhone can do. I can do more with, I can do more, I can work faster with my mirrorless, and I can work easier with slow shutter speeds.
I can walk into a place and get a photo of somebody
Yeah.
that would never agree to it if there's a big black camera.
Yeah, no, it's true. And it's interesting because a lot of the cultures I go to now, because everyone has a phone, I'll go to some pretty remote tribal markets and the people say, yeah, you can use your phone.
Yeah.
And not my camera.
Right.
So I'm always going to stay up with the technology because iPhones, they matter. They're important. And they make great images. And I have a number of photographer friends who only use iPhones and their photographs are spectacular. It's just that sometimes they're not fast enough for me. Or I'm too slow. Let's put it this way. I'm the one who fumbles. I'm not fast enough.
The camera's always going to be better, but it's the society thing.
Oh, yeah. And you've got it with you. And it's, like you said, it's not intimidating. And it's really interesting to me how many people are now, yeah, you can use the phone, but not that. And I go,
At your favorite plaza, I would just walked up and down,
Yeah.
panning. Nobody said a word to me.
no,
Yeah.
no, they won't. No, because everyone is photographing out there. I mean, the world is like, so we're swimming in photographs right now. And that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Right.
It's just, everyone's, clicking and, I go to festivals now and something happens and suddenly everybody in the crowd raises their hands.
It's
just
nutty.
the way it is.
Tell me about working and living in Santa Fe.
Well, I love it because it's a real artist town. Of course it changes. Every great place changes. I mean, when I moved here in the 70s, it was pretty much all dirt roads and the plaza was, the drugstore and, there were like real things, the shoe store and that sort of thing. And inevitably it's going to change. But I always lived downtown, but it's the clean air and the outdoors. And for me, it's the community. And as the photography community has just grown, tremendously, especially once people became unmoored from having to live in New York City or having to work in DC. So many people migrated here. And my community from Kathmandu has moved here too, because where are you going to go? You got to go to a place with mud huts, if you're used to a place like Nepal. So I love the wide variety. I like the small town effect of it and just having this really great air. And I live outside of town now. I've lived here in this small hamlet for 20 years and it's just beautiful.
How would you describe Santa Fe to someone who hasn't been here?
Well, it gets described in so many different ways. I think of it as it's an art town. It's an art. You come here for the air and the art. You come here to, you're breathing in this fantastic 7,000 feet, rarefied air. And then everywhere you look on every street, there's some form of art. And I love that. I think it's beautiful. It's a very picturesque town. It's not a walking town.
Downtown is very, very much a walking town.
Just a little bit of it.
Yeah.
But, in terms of, some places where you can walk blocks and blocks and blocks, it's not really. But you go to sections. You walk on Canyon Road. You walk in the plaza. And if you've never been here before, it's a very different architecture. It's a very different look because the air can be so crystalline here because of the high altitude.
The best skies I've seen have been north of here, more Taos than down here.
Depends on the season. I mean, when the thunderstorms come here in the summer and the lightning storms, they are spectacular. But we're kind of in a drought now. The weather pattern's been changing. The fall has come a lot later this year, much later, but there was a freeze earlier on. You never know what's going to happen here. The weather can change. We're at the end of the Rocky Mountains. I mean, this is it. This is where people came. There's like the Rocky Mountains, and then it was like, well, we got to get around them. That's Santa Fe, right at the end of the Rocky Mountains. So it's where, the action happened between East and West, and it still is. It still is happening.
Where would you go? Where have you seen some of the best sunsets? Right from
my
your
porch.
window? Yeah.
I face directly west, and I have a porch out there. And I go up on. There's a beautiful hill that has got an old pueblo, and I mean right around my corner are amazing petroglyphs right over here by the Santa Fe River. And so I take evening walks up to top of this hill, and rainbows and sunset. But you never know. You never know what's going to happen.
Right. What about commuting? I mean, so when you're traveling all over the world, you have a small airport here. Or is it larger than I think?
No, it's as small as you think. But I usually drive to Albuquerque because I'm usually flying internationally. And if anything happens, I want to have more choices. It's only, less than an hour away. So I drive to Albuquerque.
And then if you were to go to Africa, you would fly to LA and then switch, or fly to New York and switch?
There's always, yeah, there's a hub, Chicago, Denver or something. It's actually pretty easy to get to Africa. It's pretty easy. You just go to Europe and then down.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's actually pretty simple.
So-
Compared to India, is a little bit more of a longer jaunt.
Do they know you at the airport?
The Albuquerque airport, they know me, yeah.
Yeah?
Uh-huh. Yeah, I would like to use this. I mean, I'm 3 minutes from the Santa Fe
Yeah.
airport here, but again, if anything goes wrong, I have to have more choices for flying internationally.
Yeah. So you
Yeah.
just drive to Albuquerque, park your car, and
Yeah, it's the same price.
yeah. No Uber or Lyft is going to come out here.
Oh God, no. Wouldn't trust it.
So
Yeah.
let's close it off by telling
Okay.
everybody how to find out all about you online. Very simply, NevadaWier.com.
Yes, but the Wier part is interesting. It's I'm at the,
Are you I or
I'm
E?
an, you cannot put D at the end. WIER. So all the rich and famous, Bob and Peter, they're WEIRs, but I'm Nevada, WIER.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how did you get the name Nevada?
My father, yeah.
Was he a
loved it.
fan of the state?
I don't know. He died when I was very young. I just, it's my middle
Uh-huh.
name, and I've adopted it as my primary name, and it's a great name.
And have you shot there?
I worked on a book in Las Vegas once, called Planet Vegas, but it was very interesting. So I have, and they got very confused by my name. They didn't. One guy was like, "You're Nevada Wier. I thought you were a power company,"
Yeah.
And I once gave a talk in Nevada, Missouri. So, but it's a great name because people remember it. They remember it. And
And
that's helpful.
And you've been to WPPI and all those sort of
Oh
things a
yeah,
million times?
yeah. Well, I've been to a few of the conferences and things like that. It's a nice get together. So,
How do you like Vegas?
well, I liked it when I had an assignment there. My casino was Circus, which was really fun.
Oh boy.
Yeah, because we had permission to photograph in the casino,
Mm-hmm.
so that was really fun. So I had a good time, and I photographed a snow leopard actually having a milkshake and French fries in a
Okay.
drive-in. Yeah, that's Vegas.
That sounds
And
good.
3 Elvises bungee jumping off of a platform. I mean, just crazy
I
Vegas.
photographed the high wire artists.
Uh-huh.
I said I'd love to get a shot above them. Could I
Yeah.
do that? They said, yeah, just go up there and hang from the ladder with one hand and use the other hand for taking the picture. And I said, yeah, sure, why not?
Yeah.
Until I got up there and I said, what am I doing? Right? And then how am I going to get back up the ladder again? But I did it.
You did it, yeah. You find a way. Your internal spirit
Yeah.
let you do it. But no, and that's what I love. I loved having those book projects. I worked on a number of the Day in the Life of, which was fun. And this was 16 photographers. We each had a casino, and I think we had like 10 days to photograph Vegas. It was fun. So I haven't been there too much. No, I haven't been to Nevada much, but I sure love the Southwest.
Okay, so NevadaWier.com, anywhere else? You're on
Instagram,
Instagram
yeah.
at NevadaWier?
Yeah, Nevada Wier, and Facebook, and my website, which that's another thing I was able to update, at the begining of the pandemic. I need to do a
Right.
bit more.
I know.
And I got to put some new images up, but
Every day.
there's a lot to do. There's a
Yeah,
lot
never
to
ends.
do.
Thanks for having us here. And bye.
Thank
That's
you.
simple.
Thank you, everybody.